vision. Chalk in hand, he's on a mission, shaping dreams with precision. Joseph in
Hi everyone, welcome again to another podcast from Teacher Joseph. Well, Scotland has been trying to bring in legislation, laws, which would help people who are terminally ill to die faster. However, after the vote in Parliament yesterday, we now know that that won't be going ahead, at least not for the moment. Let's have a look so we can learn more about this. Right, let me just move the headline up a little bit. There you can see on the BBC's website, Scotland's assisted dying bill has fallen. What happens now? Now, I have to say, there's been a really big campaign on this. The media have been showing us pictures, of course, of people who are dying, who really want this to happen. And on the other hand, the media has also been interviewing clerics, religious people, ethical people who have very big concerns about this. Now, we'll get to this debate and what happened in the Scottish Parliament in a moment. They were voting last night. But first of all, let's ask the question, how did we get here? And what about the rest of the UK? Shouldn't they be involved? Well, the way things are, as I've told you before, the governments are devolved. And that means that we now have a number of governments around the UK which look after these issues. The Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish, and the central government itself looks after England. And again, there's also our smaller territories who make their own decisions. So the central government doesn't make laws for all of us, but it is involved in making laws for England on this issue. Right, you can see on the screen there, it says what's happening elsewhere. The current bill to legalise assisted dying in England and Wales was passed by the Commons, that's the lower chamber, in June, but it was stopped by the House of Lords, and it is now unlikely to pass. There's been a lot of opposition, and in fact, in England, I think they had a couple of very strong supporters. One of them's an actress, I think, or a TV presenter, a lot of voices about it. And of course, the history of the UK means that they tend to be a little bit moral. The House of Lords, our upper chamber, in the central government, but of course, remember, they're looking after England here. They have a lot of church involvement. The Church of England is a state religion, so they would have views on this as well. So let's see what it says. Any Westminster move to legalise assisted dying would not change Scottish law, or Scots law as it's called, as health is a devolved matter. Devolved means it's passed to the local government. So whatever England does, it's got nothing to do with Northern Ireland, Wales, or Scotland. As I mentioned, the central government itself manages England. So that's why they were doing it for England and Wales. But it will certainly increase pressure on the Scottish Parliament, which is called Holyrood, to revisit the issue. And by the way, that's an old part of Edinburgh, Holyrood, often referred to wrongly as Holyrood. And it just means Holy Cross. Right, it's just a place name. Okay, so the Isle of Man, that's that tiny little island that sits off one of our coasts. In the British Isles, it became the first place to pass its assisted dying bill. So it's done it. I don't know what the conditions are, but you can happily go to die there if you want. I thought that's what people did anyway. A lot of old people here retire to the Isle of Man. And the same with Jersey. It really is a place to go to die. And now that they have assisted dying, that makes it easier. So Jersey voted to pass its own bill last month. Neither have yet become law. Okay, so both of these are places which are going to be places that you can have assisted dying, but they haven't passed the laws yet. Okay, the bill just needs to receive permission from the king. That's just a formality. He can't say no before it takes effect. And once approved, the first legal assisted death could happen as early as summer 2027. It's written in a very strange way that, I mean, my personal feeling is I don't want people to force me to die. But I do understand, of course, that there's a lot of people in pain who have different views on this. Well, we can agree to disagree. Surely the law would allow that to happen. It says here, once approved, the first legal assisted deaths could happen as early as summer 2027, and various forms of assisted dying are already legal in Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. Yeah, and there's some very bitter looking people there who say no, thank you. Right, so what we'll do now is let's go and see what happened in that debate.
The result of the vote on motion 21005 in the name of Liam MacArthur is yes 57, no 69. There was one abstention. The motion is therefore not agreed, and the Assisted Dying Bill for Terminally Ill Adults Scotland Bill falls. The result of the vote.
Right, so let's see what happens. It says here the Scottish Parliament has voted against legislation that would have given terminally ill people in Scotland the right to choose an assisted death. But what happens now? It mentions the name of the bill. That's basically something that's introduced into Parliament that isn't law yet. We call it a bill. The Assisted Dying for Terminally Ill Adults Scotland Bill fell with 69 members of the Scottish Parliament voting against and 57 voting for. To pass, it needed the backing of 64. Okay, so close figures, close figures. The politician who tabled it, the man who brought it on board, Liam MacArthur, said he was devastated following the vote, but added that this conversation isn't going away. And that's true. It's already been in the Scottish Parliament, I think at least twice or 3 times, and the numbers are beginning to narrow. So it says here, after hours of emotional debate in the Holyrood Chamber, is this the end of the assisted dying discussion? Well, no. Actually, Scottish people are probably most likely to push it through, bearing in mind that it really has a lot of older people and very strong feelings. Of course, religious people are still opposing it, but it is, it'll be the 3rd or 4th time next time it comes around, and one of these days it certainly is going to get through. It says here it was a hugely emotional night in Parliament, with many members of the Scottish Parliament speaking for the last time in this series of debates. Some will return after the election on 7th of May, while others have already indicated their intention to stand down. Yes, that's right. So local elections are coming, and of course, that will change the landscape depending on who wins. It says here the assisted dying bill was intensely scrutinized and underwent 175 amendments. I don't know what a stage 3 amendment is, but I'm guessing there's different stages to look at the bill to see whether they can get it accepted. And then it says here, but any future attempt to resurrect the issue would have to start afresh with a new bill in a new parliamentary session. Right, and it just talks about the man who brought it forward. You heard his name in the clip there, Liam MacArthur. And it just goes on to say the bill's rejection does not close the debate. It's likely to appear again, but whether anyone has the appetite to try again and how long that might take remains to be seen. Yeah, I think what was happening in Scotland was rather hoping that if they could agree this, then it could make them look very different from England. It could be a place to come to for assisted dying, and it would show how secular and forward thinking we've become as well, because for practical reasons, assisted dying would be very useful. Now, I have to say, when it comes to death, I'm okay with it, but I just don't want to be there when it happens. But I'm certainly not in favor of assisted dying. But I do understand, of course, that for many people who are really suffering, they would view this as a way forward. But, well, there's been huge debates in the English Parliament as well. They've had a few very strong voices for it and against it. So I guess that also impacts on how people here feel about it. Bearing in mind our media, much of it is generated from England. Right, and there we are. So that's the news for today. Scotland's assisted dying bill, that means the thing that they were hoping would become law, has fallen. And people are trying to work out what happens now. There are people who have been charged. I mean, it's a criminal offense to help somebody die or to have any part in assisting your own death or anybody else's. It's important to say that. So there are people right now who are either in prison or who have been charged by the police for helping their wife or husband die in some kind of humane way. It's all very sad. So I can see why there's a need for this, but well, the debate continues. So there we are. Well, I'll be back again soon with more news from in and around the UK. And until next time, may you enjoy a very, very peaceful few days.